Hi everyone, today is Friday, April 7th, 2017. My name is Brian McInerney. I'm the hydrologist with the National Weather Service. This is the long version of the April water supply forecast. And let's take a look at what we've got for 2017 water year precip from October through March. Basically the entire water year, not including April. What we've gotten as far as precip. And the thing that jumps out at you pretty quick is that northern Utah, the Bear, the Upper Green area, compared to Colorado Basin over in Colorado and Utah, it did way better than what you see. Um, you know, Upper Colorado, it got roughly about average conditions, whereas the Bear and the Upper Green were in the range of 2 to 300%. When you look in the mountains where it really matters, this is what we see, and it's just a reflection. It's just a smaller area. But overall, the West did so much better than the last 5 years, and we'll take that. So if you zoom in a little bit on the water year precip for the Great Basin, this is what you see in the mountains. Again, it's all good, 150 to 200% over most of the area, with some areas 130 to 150%. There's a few that's a little less, but overall, a really good year as far as precip goes. When you look at temperature, and we start with March, and that's what we're going to look at to this point. It's quite warm, up to 5.5 to 7 degrees above. And really, where the storms were up in the northern part of the state and into Idaho and Wyoming, it was only about a degree to 3 degrees above. Yet, February was incredibly warm. March, this is the average we're looking at, but there were periods where we were up to 22 degrees above average for stretches of like 21 days. And then we had a cold system move through, which put this average to where it is. But during that really warm periods of February, March, we've melted off a sizable amount of snowpack, especially at the lower elevations. Here's the areas that were affected by that heat. When we look at the Great Basin, this is what we see, really warming all throughout the mountains. And we had flooding issues in February, March due to the heat and some rain events. But when we look at snowpack after all that heat, you see the dip in the green line here. These are the average of all the SNOTEL measuring stations by basin, and we're looking at snow water equivalent on the y-axis. The x-axis is time, the blue line is average. And while I was making this, I said, give me the two biggest years we've had since we've been keeping records. And this is what we have is 2005, aqua 2011 in red, and the green is 2017. And you can see a rebound with each one of these all the way through this rest of the basins. But we're still doing okay. 144% snow in the Bear River drainage, 129 for the Weber, closer to 2005, kind of bowed out from racing with 2011. Six Creeks is only 125% below 2005, below 2011, but still 125%. And there was some low elevation watersheds that got rain, it didn't get snow. Utah Lake a little better, closer to 2005, 144%. And then the Duchesne still doing really well, above 2011 and right in line with 2005. We'll see how this shakes out, but still 165%. The Upper Green, 168%, and we're above 2005 and 2011. And then you slide down into Lake Powell, and these are mostly SNOTEL stations in Colorado at 119%, closer to 2011, 2005. Over into the severe, the numbers start dropping off, and you can see this precipitous drop in the snowpack, melting up to 5 inches of snow water equivalent in about a 2-week period. It was pretty rough to see for the severe, but as we'll move on, we'll see the benefits and maybe some of that. And then the Virgin, very similar situation. We're closer to average now than we were 2005, 2011. Now let's jump into water supply, and I've done something a little extra. Maybe hopefully this doesn't add too much time to the briefing, but it's a kind of a summary of all the data, give you a feel or give you a flavor for what it looked like for the year. And the forecasts are in January, February, March, and April as it's progressed by the Colorado Basin River Forecast Center in the same room with me here at the National Weather Service. And you can see the Bear, it's still holding tough at 200%, where the Weber dropped from 170 to 150. And this is the volume of water coming out of the mountains from April 1st through the end of July. Six Creeks at 105% is quite low, but really that's due to some of those rain events that we had, multiple rain events throughout the year, and low elevation watersheds did not get the snow. So we'll start with the Bear. The thing that jumps out at me is the March stream flow at 265% of average. This is due to the heat that we had and some rain events that pumped up all the rivers and streams prematurely. We had premature melt, we had rain when we should have had snow climatologically, and this is evident in many of the basins. But you see the March precip at 125 and the rest of the data here. All healthy numbers. So let's take a look at the Bear. We'll start and we'll look at 2 points. We'll start with Woodruff Narrows Reservoir as it comes into Utah. 182% of average, 220,000 acre feet. Stewart Dam, 330% of average, 600,000 acre feet, and it's up around 2011. In 2011, we filled Bear Lake after many years of dry conditions, and we'll see how this shakes out, but it looks quite promising for Bear Lake at this point. The Weber, notice the March stream flow, 245%. So the forecast I'm giving you it ranges from April 1st through the end of July. Yet we had 2.5 times the amount of stream flow that's going into reservoirs and really running through all the watershed that's accounted for. So we'll take it. It didn't evaporate. It didn't go into the atmosphere. It was in the streams and in the reservoirs now for the most part. March precip 95% and a forecast of 150%. And we'll look at 3 locations. We'll start in the headwater areas of Oakley, and it's 142% of average, 168,000 acre feet. East Canyon, 122% of average, 33,000 acre feet. And the Pine View Reservoir inflow at 186% of average, 210,000 acre feet. A little bit of a drop in that forecast, which may not be a bad thing for those areas. Okay, now in the Six Creeks, March stream flow not as significant due to those low elevations that really didn't have the snow to melt at 130%. March precip at 85, and the forecast is down around 105. We'll look at 2 points. Little Cottonwood, high elevation watershed at 134% of average, or 51,000 acre feet. And then when you look over to City Creek at 106%, or 8.2 thousand acre feet, not nearly as good. Utah Lake conditions, 255% March stream flow, 90% March precip, all good numbers all the way across, 175% average for the forecast for this basin. And we'll start at a point up near Woodland. That's the inflow into Jordanelle, 170% of average, 170,000 acre feet. And then we'll go to Castilla at 152% of average, or 105,000 acre feet. So when you look over now into the Green River Basin, these are the watersheds that all kind of flow from the Green, Upper Green, Yampa, Duchesne. They all kind of come together and then flow in the main stem Green. Pretty good numbers all the way across, except for the Yampa at 85%, and that comes directly from Colorado. But we'll look at the Duchesne, 190% March stream flow, and the rest of those numbers really pretty good at this point. So let's take a look at multiple points in the Duchesne, and we'll also slide down to the price. The Strawberry Reservoir inflow at 162% of average, or 115,000 acre feet. The Duchesne to Tabiona at 169% of average, or 183,000 acre feet. Duchesne near Knight's Diversion, 173% of average, quite well, 335,000 acre feet. And then into Schofield down by south of Price, 178% of average, 73,000 acre feet. And then Joe's Valley Reservoir, 134% of average at 75,000 acre feet. And then when you look at the Upper Green, 375% of March stream flow due to the melt that we had. The temperatures marked precip, quite good, 145. Some of that 375 in March stream flow came in the form of rain events that pumped it up. When you look at 145% precip during March, that's what pumped up those numbers. And really all good all around. The forecast for this area is 185%. We'll look at the inflow into Flaming Gorge at 231% of average, 2.2 million acre feet. And then we'll go downstream to Green River at 152% of average at 4.5 million acre feet. And then when you look at the watersheds out in Colorado itself, the upper main stem of the Colorado at 105%, and really the Gunnison and a little bit farther south and the Dolores doing well. But the upper Colorado high elevation watershed March precip only got 50% and 130% March stream flow coming out here as it's pretty high. So we'll look at 2 points here. Cisco on the Colorado River as it goes past the town of Cisco from Colorado into Utah at 111% of average forecast at 4.9 million acre feet, and then into Lake Powell 130% of average 9.3 million acre feet. And at one point in March the forecast called for Lake Powell to rise 50 feet. That's like a 5-story building. Since then that's backed off a little bit, but still 130% of average is quite nice to see for Lake Powell. Over in the severe, reeling right around average for most of the time except for that slow start in January. And then when you look at where we are, March precip 85, not too bad. March stream flow 170%. They got a little extra early, but you see this down in southern Utah frequently with higher stream flows in March due to the warming that we're going to see. From now on it's going to get warmer all the time. Severe at Hatch 96% of average, 46,000 acre feet, and then downstream to Marysvale at 89% of average into the Paiute Reservoir at 58,000 acre feet. And then we'll move into the Virgin, and you could see a slow decline since February, and 85% for really the entire basin, with some pretty high March stream flows, and then March precip not so good at 65%. We'll look at 2 areas. One is the headwater areas at Virgin, and that's 97% of average at 56,000 acre feet, and then over into the outflow at 74% of average or 48,000 acre feet. So with this all said and done, how's our drought look? Looks pretty good. We've got no drought categories in Utah, and really for the entire country we're doing quite well. If we look at the country compared to drought, especially California, they were in some really bad exceptional drought, D4, and that just erased within like a 3-month period. So there you have it. There's my contact info. We'll wait and see how this weather shakes out, what our peak flows look like. But right now, northern Utah is the area that we're concerned about for flooding due to, and to damage structures. But we'll wait and see how the weather does. Cold, wet, keep it as long as possible, and then turn the sun on later in May. That could bring some pretty catastrophic problems for some of these areas. But if we have kind of average conditions, average temperatures without any major rainfall, it'll be a large volume runoff with maybe some nuisance flooding, but we'll see at that point. Otherwise, until the next one, we'll go from there, and I do appreciate taking the time to listen to this. Thank you.